Hey everyone, welcome back to She Burbs Podcast. I am your host, Brooke Wright.
Hey everyone, welcome back to She Burbs Podcast. Today's guest is Mr. J. Hi, Mr. J. Thank you so much
Hello.
Thank you so much for being a guest today.
Thank you for having me on. For anyone listening now or in the future, just know there is about a 5-second delay. So we may be talking over one another, but hopefully we'll get through this with a lot of love and patience.
Yeah. So Mr. J is a relationship coach and betrayal trauma practitioner. So can you tell our listeners when's the first time you realized you wanted to be a coach?
Well, thank you for asking me that question. And I appreciate, you having me on. I just want to tell you, believe it or not, I started coaching before coaching was cool. Nowadays, everybody's a coach in everything, gemology and whatever. Not to down anybody's anything, but I'm just saying everybody coach nowadays. But probably about 20 years ago, I got my bachelor's degree in psychology. And, we're heavily involved in a church. And so I was on the premarital and marital counseling board. And so I was doing a lot of premarital and marital counseling in a religious setting. You can use a bachelor's degree in psychology, but really it was coaching, to be honest with you. So I started coaching, eons ago, and on and off have been doing it until just rather recently. I got very involved in betrayal trauma, which is fascinating because betrayal trauma is unlike other types of trauma and betrayal. We all have trauma in our lives, whether it's the big T or the little t. We all have betrayal in our lives, whether it's the big B or the little b. But when it comes to actual betrayal trauma, doesn't matter if it's from your children, your parents, your creator, yourself, your neighbor, your boss. So I'm certified to help themselves go through the process and stages and phases of trauma from being betrayed, which we can get into a bunch of stuff if you want to, but I don't want to take up this whole section with just me blabbing about my credentials.
Well, that's interesting that you talk about that because I had one guy on here, I guess, that his wife tried to kill him. She put arsenic poisoning in his energy drinks. Well, not energy drinks, protein shakes, and tried to kill him. So, wow. So you will help with people like in his situation?
Oh, 100%. Because listen, if you go through betrayal or if you go through trauma, devastating, it's life altering. It's permanent. We just learn how to live with it. When people that are closest to us betray us, that now has intentional implications. And it's a whole different world, whole different ballgame. So most certainly that would be one aspect of somebody that I would certainly work with. I work with people that have been traumatized by their parents, traumatized by bosses. Certainly people betrayal trauma from infidelity. Even people that say they feel like they've betrayed themselves or their creator betrayed them. How many times do you hear from somebody where they say, I took all the vitamins and I drank all the shakes and I exercised and I prayed and I meditated and I was still diagnosed with breast cancer. That can feel like a personal betrayal or a betrayal from your creator. So betrayal trauma is it's a different burning sensation than other types of trauma because, like I said, it's more intentional. The feeling is more intentional, even though 9 times out of 10 betrayal trauma is not about you at all. But it does affect you egregiously.
Wow. That's wild. Like a lot of guests that I've had on here, they could probably use your help. Like, I'm not saying that they're like bad people or anything, but they've been through a lot of stuff. A lot. I've heard a lot of stories.
And that's what I'm saying. Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying, Brooke, is that nobody has been exempt. Nobody walking the face of the earth hasn't experienced trauma in some capacity, betrayal in some capacity. And for those, and I'm being funny now, for those lucky few, ha ha ha, it's not funny, that have severe, intense betrayal trauma. Oftentimes, if you don't deal with that, it changes who you are. It jades you. You bring it to your grave. It's no joke. I mean, I kind of laugh about it because, one of my many mottos in life is the reason angels can fly is because they take themselves so lightly. So I do believe in, laughter is the best medicine. I do believe in humor and stuff, but betrayal trauma is certainly no laughing matter. And people really go off on the deep end with this, burn houses down, run people over. It is, and it gets pretty intense. Again, I don't want to get into the whole thing, but a lot of times our current trauma has very little to do with our actual current trauma, but it has everything to do with our attachment style, first trauma in life. So again, this kinds of deep and intense, but if you have any specific questions, I'm happy to answer them, but trust me, I can sit here and just keep talking for about 4 hours. I don't want to bore you.
No, it's not boring to me at all. I like it. Like, it's interesting hearing these things because I was in a relationship and the guy, he got mad. I broke up with him. So he drove his car up on the steps to try to run me over with his car. Like, so yeah, but interesting things. Like, yeah, all because I said I didn't want to be with him anymore. Like, I guess that traumatized them. I don't know. But
now this is what's interesting, Brooke. Oh, sorry to interrupt you. But see, now this is what's interesting. I could almost guarantee you that if I was to speak with this individual, he was abandoned or he was neglected or he was rejected as a child or somebody did something to him that what you did triggered a very sensitive point from yesterday. And you just opened this Pandora's box. Oftentimes, we might be the trigger of a loaded gun. And it just all comes out like a volcano when we just say we're not interested anymore, we can't do this anymore, or what have you, which is why you really got to get to know who you're with. And the other thing too is, first I was what's called an intrapersonal relationship coach, and that's the relationship people have with themselves. Because I always say that the relationship you have with yourself sets the tone and standard in which all other relationships are built. So the more you know yourself, the more self-confident, the more secure, the more, so forth, the better you can present yourself to the world around you. And also the better that because we teach people how to treat us. When we know who we are, we can expect other people to respect our boundaries and so forth. I am a wedding officiant, and I can't tell you how many times I'm in front of two young people exchanging I do's, knowing very well they have no clue who the I am is. And so what happens is you wind up putting all your expectations on the other person, and they're not going to fulfill your expectations because they don't even know who they are half the time. And, so it just gets very interesting. So so I was initially an intrapersonal relationship coach, and then I got into betrayal trauma. But if you don't mind, if you don't have any questions about this specifically, which I'm thrilled to answer if you do, holidays are around the corner, so I'd like to talk about holiday stress with family. But I'm happy for you to take the lead, Brooke. This is your show.
Yeah, I want to hear about that. Like, you can go ahead and dive into it.
Okay. So I just want to say a couple things. First of all, the holidays are coming, and I think a lot of people. Now, listen. I'm fortunate. I happen to have a wonderful, large, extended family. Now, listen, we all have a few of those special family members. I think we all know what I'm talking about. Where, like, you're almost gritting your teeth, when you're pulling up in the driveway. But I will say, personally, I'm blessed. I have a very large family. But there are occasions where there's some family members that it's their full-time job to cause an argument, it seems, So one of the first things I want to do, because the holidays are around the corner, is number one, think to yourself, because think about it, Brooke. we're coming out of a pandemic. Well, it seems like we're never going to come out of it, but we're coming out of a pandemic. We've all been stressed for so long. So oftentimes people are going to see family members they don't necessarily want to see. They don't have the time to see the family members. They have the money but they're making all these sacrifices to go see a family. And so it would be nice if we could just visit family without stress, without arguing, without this and that. However, that's wishful thinking for a lot of people. So I'd like to just give a handful of tips and techniques maybe to help some of the holiday this year along. And the first thing I'll say is a lot of it's preparation work, to be honest with you. So before you're setting up to go to this family function, prepare yourself. And what I mean by prepare yourself is don't do anything the day of or even the day before that's stressful anyway. Don't watch any news because nowadays, no matter what you turn on, it's all politicized and it's bad news and it's negativity and it's anger and it's frustration. I wouldn't do anything the day of or the day before that's going to stress you out in any capacity. And if that means bringing up something to your spouse that you know is going to cause an argument, just don't do it. The day of, the day before, don't do anything at all that's going to cause stress. That's going to set you up for more success. Because if you're walking into a family member who loves strife and stress and you're already stressed, so try to, set yourself up. That's number one. Now, if you have children, let them know, no matter what mama says, no matter what daddy says, don't contradict me. We don't want to teach our children to lie, but we also want to make sure they're not contradicting us because, and I'll just give one example. Let's just say Uncle Todd, and we all a little bit more Uncle Todd than our kids do. Uncle Todd wants to give our kids a big hug. Well, maybe we're not comfortable with that. So you know what? You can tell your child, hey, fist pumps are okay. Shoulder taps are okay. Elbow situation. And so if I ask you to, do one of those instead of a hug, just don't question, mommy or daddy or what have you, daddy or papa or mommy or whatever the case may be. Just go ahead with it. No matter what, do not contradict anything I say. Now, force our kids to hug for the most part. And I know this can be difficult because certain cultures are very big on that. And I'm very big on respect. I'm huge on respect with kids. But at the same token, we want to teach our kids that their bodies are their bodies and whatever. So definitely encourage kids to hug and kiss and love and this. But if they're not comfortable, they don't want to, we got to respect those boundaries. We cannot expect our kids to grow up and respect their body injuries if we're not respecting them when they're younger. We have to, build that into them. So while we're at the house, a couple of things is one of the things I tell people is try to wear something that gives you a visual aid of a happy. So for instance, hypothetically speaking, you have a little bracelet on, and that bracelet reminds you of, I don't know, horseback riding in the Carolina meadows. So every time you look at that bracelet, you're just taken back to horseback riding in the Carolinas with warm breeze running through your face and the horses, whatever. And that way, the minute your family member starts on their nonsense, you just look at your bracelet. It just kind of mentally brings you to a peaceful place. Another thing, too, is when your family is bringing up some things, which they often do, everybody wants to get in your business about, vaccination and who you're dating and when are you getting pregnant and what's going on with the person you're with and blah, blah, blah. You can just say, you know what? Have a pre-scripted statement, a pre-scripted of anything along the line of, you know what, I'm glad you brought that up. And at some point, I do want your input on that. But today, actually, if you don't mind, I'd love to have your input on blah, 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 blah. So kind of the topic without being rude and dismissive. Also, try to understand that, family members, I told you before, some family members, it's their full-time job to argue. It's like their mission to cause drama. And so try to understand that. Try to understand, you know what, this isn't about me. This isn't really about the topic at hand. This is how this person, for some reason, drama gives them purpose. They don't have much purpose in their life, so they want to create drama. I used to teach school for many, many years, and I tell my students, the only way you're going to get hit is if you step into a boxing ring. People are going to be jabbing. As long as you stay out of that ring, you're not going to. Once you get into that ring. Now you've opened yourself up. So don't tell yourself you're not going to get into it. Oh, are you vaccinated? Are you not vaccinated? What Rittenhouse? A, B, and C? No, not getting into the ring. You're welcome to talk amongst yourself, not getting into that ring whatsoever. And I will say, if you do have to leave, because many family members wind up having to leave, if you do have to leave, do so in a loving, pleasant manner. I hear so many times, I'm a good person, but how you treat me is how I'm going to treat you. Well, here's the deal, though. We all have to put our we all have to put our head on our own pillow at night. We all have to look at ourselves in the mirror. I don't want to be a leaf in the water. If the wind blows east, I turn east. If the wind blows west, I turn. I'm not going to respond how people respond to me. I'm going to respond on my own morals, my own values, my own virtues. If somebody wants to disrespect me, that doesn't mean I have to go lower and disrespect them. I'm still going to be the person of character that I am. So if you do have to leave, leave with dignity, leave with respect, because you got to deal with you when you get home, and you're not a person that's going to go low when somebody else does. So, also another thing too that you can tell your family member is, if they bring up something, hey, are you a Trump supporter? Are you a Biden supporter? What do you think of Kamala? You know what? I decided this holiday season, I'm really not going to bring up politics. State your boundaries, if they want to continue on, oh, you're a Trump supporter, you're a Biden supporter, you're a this or that. You, depending on the family you come from, you can actually play a little game of, oh, do I hear a baby crying? And that's you telling them it's time to change subject. There's no baby crying. You're just letting them know, hey. Thing too is come up with a couple excuses before you walk into a house. So, for instance, if your family member starts talking about these political, religious, financial things that we should all stay away from, give yourself a few premeditated excuses, like, so your family member's badgering you. Brooke, hey, did you get vaccinated? Brooke, what's going on with that guy you're dating? You guys are getting married? Brooke, when are you going to have your first kid? You can say something like, oh my God, I ate so much. If I don't get up and walk around, I'm going to bust. So you're kind of like diverting the attention. And the last thing I'll say, which I have more, but I want to give you a word in edgewise, because trust me, like I said, I can talk. The last thing I would say is when you walk into somebody's house, if you do what's called a psychological injection, well, I made up that term. It's what I call it. If you do what's called a psychological injection, people are less likely to want to come in for an attack. So for instance, let's just say, Brooke, I'm the person that likes to agitate at family, right? If all of a sudden you walk into my house and I am known to be the agitator, if you say, oh my God, Mr. J, I love that shirt. Where did you get it? And please tell me what cologne you're wearing, because it's like, I'm going to buy some for my husband or my wife or what have you. Okay, now you made me feel good. Now I'm less likely to want to annoy you. So it's called a psychological injection. Okay, I'm going to stop in case you have any questions, but I can keep going.
The screen. Okay. No, that makes perfect sense. Like, I never thought of it that way. Like, usually if I don't want to talk about something, I usually say it straight up front. Like, I'm not going to discuss this. Usually that's how I am, because I'm pretty straightforward with most people. So, yeah. I mean, all of those things that you're talking about are exactly what parents and family members love to bring up every single holiday. So, yeah, it's good to learn. It's good to learn those things, how to get away from those situations, how to get away from those conversations. Like, usually I'm kind of like grumpy anyway because I don't want to be there. So I'm just like, why are we talking about this? Like, usually. Oh, someone commented on here. Can you read that? Or do you want me to read it?
I can't see any comments.
You can't see it? Okay. It's from Erica,
Sure.
and she said, I like the idea of psychological injection. Can I borrow that? Oh, and then she put a smiley face. That's funny.
Listen, 99% of anything I ever say and do was stolen from someone else. So anybody's welcome to steal or borrow anything. And if it's the Erica I think it is, I'm definitely going to comply, or else I'll get an evil eye.
That's funny. um, so, can you tell our listeners about your latest book?
Well, I don't have a latest book, although I should write one, because there's always one good book in everyone, and but many people have a lot of good books. I don't have any. I don't have any latest book at all. I do have a book on Amazon that I wrote a few years ago. It's a children's book. It's titled "I Am Loved Right Where I Am." And basically, it's I was teaching school for many years, and I dynamics have changed over the years. And a good amount of students now, they don't come home with a mom and dad. A good amount of students, they come from foster homes. They live with their oldest sibling. Maybe they live with grandparents or whatever. Maybe they live in a home with two moms or two dads, or maybe they live in what have you. But I'm not sure that our books kind of caught up with these new family dynamics. They certainly are, but I'm not sure they caught up with these new family dynamics. And the message that I wanted to get across to kids was, listen, I don't care if you're with your mom and dad. I don't care if you're with a foster home that you're only going to be there for 2 days and go get your black garbage bag and go on to the next foster home. You need to know that wherever you lie your head at night, you're loved. You're there. It's hard to tell some kids that that's where you're supposed to be, but no matter what family dynamic in which you live, that's where you are. You're loved. That's where you're supposed to be. And I wrote the book not only for the kids that are in these diverse family dynamics, but all for children that come from your more traditional, typical family dynamics, so that they can also get a hold of this book and understand that, you know what, a lot of my classmates don't go home the way I go home. They go home with family dynamics. I need to understand that. I need to respect that. I need to acknowledge that. So that's been on Amazon for eons. It's got, great reviews, and if anybody wants to check it out, feel free.
Wow, that's amazing. I want to thank you so much for coming on my podcast today and chatting with me.
Well, thank you, Brooke. Can I just want to leave with two quick things. Number one, I think so many times. Okay, let me just get to the point, because I have a tendency to gab. I just want to say, don't expect you from other people. So many times we look at somebody, or we look at a circumstance and say, why in the world would they do that? Well, what's happening is we're looking at them out of the lens of our own life, as we are who we are. So don't expect you from other people at all in any capacity. That's number two. I just wanted to say this, and this goes back to my betrayal trauma background. No one in the history of mankind ever died from a snake bite. No one whatsoever. What people die from, Brooke, is that when a poisonous snake bites you, the venom gets into your veins, and by the time it reaches your heart, that's what kills us. Well, trauma is the same way. Trauma is going to hit us, and nobody's exempt from trauma. But so we can't pain that people give us. We can stop or work on the suffering that we give ourselves. So other people are going to give us pain. We need to make sure that we deal with our suffering. Their pain doesn't come into our body, reach our heart, and jade us. Because I'm telling you, I talk to people that have been out of trauma for 20, 30 years, and you would think that they just got out of it 2 weeks ago. So you got to trauma, because that's like a fire sensation in your body, a volcano that'll destroy everything in its path. And if you don't deal with trauma, it will come out somewhere, somehow, some way. I don't care, whether it's a physical ailment, spiritual blockage, you name it, you got to deal with trauma. So nobody from a snake, it's the venom that gets into the heart that winds up. Do not let other people's pain cause you a tremendous amount of suffering. Other people give you pain. You have to give yourself suffering. Stop that suffering before it reaches your heart.
That's true. That's really true. I'm going to thank you so much for coming on here and sharing those two facts, too. You have a great day.
It's been a pleasure, Brooke. Thank you so much for your time.
Bye.